Hi everyone, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Parent Pep Talk, advice and understanding from experts, parents, and kids. I'm your host, Gary Carton, or as my aunt used to call me when I was a kid, taco-flavored cheese-covered grape, because the only thing I'd eat was taco-flavored Doritos, American cheese slices, and grapes. Which brings us to today's episode on nutrition and how to help your child create a healthy relationship with food for a lifetime. In our first ever speed round edition, we're going to focus on a variety of issues, including what to do if your kids won't eat vegetables. Is fast food okay even once in a while? How important is organic food? And perhaps most important, how parents play a major role in fostering a healthy body image for their kids. And off the record, our teen panel answers a question about what to do if your child doesn't want to try new foods, and one mom takes one for the team by sharing a story about her toddler whose favorite food was water. Plus, our Safe Kids Tip of the Week is a great way to get your kids excited about nutrition and also keep them safe. So let's get right to it. Our expert today is Deanna Busteed, who is the sports dietitian for George Mason's Center for Sports Performance, which serves more than 500 Division I athletes. She has more than 20 years' experience of developing health and wellness programs, as well as providing cutting-edge nutrition, fitness, and other services to a wide variety of individuals and groups. We caught up with Deanna at her office at George Mason University. So thank you so much, Deanna, for being with us today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, as you know, this is a podcast about parenting, so that's where we always like to start. Can you tell us how many kids you have and how old they are?
Yes, I have 2 children. Annabelle is 8 years old and Harrison is 6.
And how are they doing? How's being a parent so far?
Oh, it's super fun, very challenging, but extremely rewarding.
Awesome. Okay, so being a dietitian, I'm sure you get tons of questions. And when I was telling people I was coming over to speak with you today, for some reason they just shouted questions at me. So I jotted them down. I thought we could do the first speed round in one of these podcasts.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. The first one is, how stressed out should a parent be if their kid doesn't want to eat a vegetable every day?
Keep trying in a variety of different ways. Stressed out is not a good place to be. If you're stressed out, it's going to stress your kids out. So try the best you can to not be stressed about it and just find a wide variety of vegetables to offer and offer them in different ways, shapes, and forms. So for example, like cauliflower in and of itself, it tastes very different raw versus cooked. And it tastes very different roasted versus steamed or boiled. And you can always add things like Parmesan cheese adds a ton of flavor. You can add herbs and spices. You can even add jellies, jams, preserves. You can add vinegars to vegetables.
So
it tastes lovely.
You can add some things that might not be the healthiest in the world, but make it taste better, and then you're still getting the vegetable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The vegetables really are essential, and I do have, if there's one big takeaway from this podcast, it is trying to get our kids, get everyone to eat more fruits and vegetables. There are no negative effects of eating fruits and vegetables. There's an abundance of data on vegetable-based diets and how healthful they are for just overall health and disease prevention. But finding ways to make them palatable and to fit in is great.
Got it. Okay, number 2. What about fast food? What's your philosophy on?
Yeah, occasional fast food is okay, and again, showing yourself some compassion, right? I mean, if you're a busy family, all fast food is not created equal. That's the first point, is that we've really come a long way in terms of fast food. There are healthier places to stop and grab a bite to eat, and there are unhealthier places to stop and grab a bite to eat. And even the unhealthier places, there are more healthful options nowadays. And so there certainly are times when we are busy and on the run, and we will swing through McDonald's. It's not frequent, it's not every week, but it's definitely not an absolute no. And I find the more absolute no's you have, or food rules you have, or things you absolutely don't allow your children to eat, oftentimes the more that can backfire.
So it's that setting the tone, even from an early age, that parents can really have an effect on how much of an impact eating and health can have on their kids, and the philosophy those kids will then grow up to have.
Yes, I firmly believe that parents set the tone and setting an example, right? We've all heard that sitting down together as a family and eating meals is a positive thing to do. And it absolutely, research does prove that sitting down together as a family and eating meals together and sharing and talking leads to healthier eating habits and behaviors. So taking that time, it doesn't necessarily have to be every single day of the week, but at least finding several days of the week where you can sit down as a family is very positive and beneficial. And also a major role for parents is really to have healthy options available in the house, and then involve the children in either grocery shopping, meal prep, certainly cleaning up the kitchen, but getting them involved as early as humanly possible.
You can get the kids to clean the kitchen?
Oh, yes.
You're so good. I'm such a bad parent.
Yeah, we get them to clear the table and rinse off their dishes and put them in the dishwasher, and they help set the table. Helping out with meal prep is a little bit more difficult at times because they're little, but starting them early can really help, and getting them involved again in the grocery shopping and putting their lunch boxes together, and they pack their own snacks. And we discuss what goes in their lunchbox. It's not an authoritarian view, even though this is my field. I want the kids' buy-in in terms of what goes in their lunchbox.
So what do you teach them specifically about what should go in someone's in their lunch?
Yeah, so typically we have a protein every day in their lunchbox, and that can range from like turkey or ham or cubed cheese, and then we always pick a fruit and a vegetable. So typically they pick cucumbers, baby carrots, or little red, little baby peppers, and then selections for fruit often include applesauce squeezies, raisins. Sometimes we do blueberries and strawberries. Sometimes we do dried fruit, different types of dried fruit, or fruit leathers without added sugar. But typically we like it to be well-rounded, and they play an active role in packing their lunchbox.
The lesson I'm taking for this, other than feeling bad about myself as a parent,
You should not feel bad.
is that if you really work on this young, when kids are young, you can get them in the habit of understanding what nutrition means, having a healthy perspective about it, and really being balanced as they move forward.
Yes, and it is a frequent discussion. I do believe having the conversation frequently is very, very helpful.
Okay, cool. Well, that is a great thing to know. 15 years late for me, but I guess it's never too late.
Never
too late. Okay,
never
cool.
too late.
That sounds good. A couple more here. This is a big one. Organic food. It's so expensive.
It is so expensive.
But it's depending on who you believe, it could be the difference between living a long, healthy life or getting sick. What's your philosophy on, do you need to spend the extra money on organic food? And if so, what should you spend it on, and what don't you need to worry about?
Yeah, so I do, they have done some analysis on organic food items, and typically the nutrient profile is not any more superior. So, for example, like strawberries don't necessarily have more vitamin C in them when they are organic versus not organic when they're conventionally farmed. So it isn't necessarily that you're getting more nutrition out of that same strawberry. It's really more philosophical in terms of how that strawberry was produced in terms of pesticides. So I personally and professionally believe that thinner skinned fruits and vegetables are beneficial if you can afford them to get organic food items. I don't think it's important to spend your money on organic crackers. I don't think it's important to spend your money on organic candy, for example.
But chicken or beef, it can be so much more expensive if it's organic.
So in terms of chicken and beef, actually the research is now pointing to grass-fed is actually more important because the nutritional profile is different. If the cow is eating grass versus corn and sort of being forced to fed, the nutrient profile in the animal tissue is different. So yes, organic and grass-fed are more important in terms of milk, poultry, beef, and even with fish. I prefer to purchase wild-caught instead of farmed because you can have very unhealthy conditions in farmed fish. So yes, it is more expensive. So fruits, vegetables, and sort of animal products. I think if you're going to spend the money, then you may not be able to do it all the time. Maybe you pick and choose. Maybe this week I'm going to do organic chicken, and maybe next week I'm going to do organic beef. And again, the diet being full of fruits and vegetables.
And just so to be totally clear, so that's the best case scenario. But let's say it's a family that's really on a budget, and it can really make a difference. We're talking $6 for a chicken breast versus $14, and milk is $2.50 as opposed to $6. If you can't afford to necessarily get the organic, do you need to feel like you're not being good to your kids?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. I mean, our food supply is generally very safe. And so the most important piece is that family members are getting enough total energy. They're getting healthy sources of carbohydrates coming from grains, whole grains, fruits, starchy vegetables, some liquid dairy products. They're getting calcium and vitamin D from either milk or milk alternatives, and again getting an abundance of vitamins and minerals from all foods in general. But no, you don't need to stress out over everything being organic.
Okay.
And again, maybe you choose to just you have the ability to buy organic milk, and maybe that's all you're going to do.
Perfect. So a next question is, you talked about this body image. And I thought that was so important because kids, we know, their bodies change at different ages. Some kids are a little heavier when they're younger.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about this amazing philosophy you have about not overreacting to the body image of your child and really what their health is more important?
Yes. And so we as adults, family members, coaches, teachers have an enormous influence on young people. And it's a big responsibility. And whether or not we realize it, they're listening to everything that we say, and they're copying everything that we do. And if kids are in an environment where they are hearing negative comments about body weight and a focus on diet and heavy restriction on eating, it has a very negative effect. Kids that come from families where nutrition was focused on dieting tend to have worse outcomes in terms of their body weight and health. And so, what we want to do is help children and young people create a healthy relationship with their bodies by, again, providing a variety of food, setting an example. In our house, we're not allowed to use the F word, and the F word in our house is fat. We're not allowed to use the word fat. It is not a kind term. And in general, I don't want my kids talking about body weight. I don't want them talking about other people's body weight, using words like fat or skinny or overweight. People are more than their weight. People are more than just their bodies. And so, we want to nourish the body. We want to be healthful in the way that we do it. We want to be balanced in how we approach eating. We want to eat more indulgent things in moderation, and we want to celebrate our body, and we want to move it in all different directions all the time in a healthful way, in ways that provide enjoyment, but we don't want to hyper-focus on it, and we don't want to have a negative relationship with our body and our weight. And we do the best that we can to be healthy, and we want to, again, not describe people based on just their body weight, because we are so much more than that.
That's awesome. And then my last question, I always like to bring it back to the parenting, is if you could go back and talk to yourself when you were a young parent, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself?
I would say slow it down.
What do you mean?
Yeah, just, really things go very quickly as we all kind of look back, and the kids grow up in a blink of an eye, and there's so much to do and so much to accomplish and so many things to experience. But I think for me personally, taking a deep breath, being more mindful, slowing down and trying to enjoy and cherish some of the moments that have already passed. It's never too late to do that. But, we live in a fast-paced society, and it really does go very quickly. And so finding ways on a daily basis to sit down, reflect, take a deep breath, and kind of enjoy the moment. I wish I had done that a little bit more. I'm working on doing that now. It's a challenge, but it's always, things go so fast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You are a joy, and I know we could probably talk for a long time, but this is a great start, and we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Before we get to our Off the Record segment, I wanted to let you know that the Parent Pep Talk is brought to you by Safe Kids Worldwide, which is a go-to resource to help parents keep their kids safe from car crashes, fires, falls, poisonings, burns, and much more. So you just heard Deanna say that one of the best ways to get your kids interested in nutrition is to include them in the cooking, even at an early age. And that brings us to our Safe Kids tip of the week. If your kids are very young, instead of carrying or holding your child while you cook on the stove, move a high chair into the kitchen within reach or sight before you start. Then you can talk to your kids so they know what's going on, which can be a great way to spend time together. And we know older kids love to reach, so as a precaution, use the back burners of your stove and turn pot handles away from the edge of the counters, just to be extra safe. These are just some of the many tips from Safe Kids, so check them out at safekids.org, sign up for their Top Tips newsletter or product recalls, or join them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram for more tips, videos, and all kinds of things to keep your kids healthy, active, and safe. Okay, so our next segment is called Off the Record, and here's how it works. We have a panel of teenagers who are going to answer your questions to try to give you a little insight into what your kids might be thinking. This week's question is from Alyssa.
Hi, this is Alyssa from Buffalo, and I have a question for the kid experts. My friend has kids who will eat anything, anytime. They're always trying new things. It's incredible, and I'm so jealous. How do I get my kids to try new things and eat more than just the same 3 things all the time?
Okay, so we have Gabby, Brody, Troy, and Maddie. So you heard the question, so what do you think?
I definitely don't think it's a huge deal if your kid is a picky eater. I feel like that's just kind of part of the process of growing up.
I don't think that a little kid not trying new things is necessarily a big problem as long as they're still eating nutritional things. Like, if your kid's eating carrots, he likes carrots, I think there's no reason to have to force them to try squid or stuff like that. If they have a good balanced diet, I think it's fine. You just leave it at that.
I also think that, especially like from a kid's perspective, it gets really annoying when your parent is trying to always force you to eat like things that you don't like. And like Brody said, it's good to try new things, but if your kid is like consistent with whatever foods they're eating, just try not to force it too much on them, because there's really no harm being done if they're eating healthy, even if their diet is not very broad.
I agree with that. Nobody wants to go to dinner and have to say, oh, what are my parents going to try to make me eat tonight?
So I was definitely a picky eater when I was a young kid. And I remember just being at the table, and when my parents would try to like force me to try like Brussels sprouts and be like, hey, Brody, you got to try this. It's good for you. And I just remember thinking like, why? Like, just kind of just let me be. Like, let me just enjoy my dinner. We can like hang out, have this family time. But it kind of just ruins the mood. It ruins the setting when you're being forced into something, and it just like really kind of changes the dynamic of the dinner. And
so when they would give you the reason, well, this is going to make you strong and you're going to be healthy and you're going to grow up to be big, that didn't resonate. You weren't like, oh, thank you for that great advice. Now I'm going to eat Brussels sprouts.
I think when you're a little kid, you're not thinking about the future. You're thinking about you're thinking about how to get through dinner. So yeah, definitely hearing those things. I mean, they're all true, of course. It all makes tons of sense now, but the majority of kids are not going to be advanced enough to be able to relate with that kind of thinking.
And a big part of what I'm hearing you say is because a lot of this is not just the food that you eat, but it's the time you're spending with your kids. And when you're being kind of nagged or to try something you don't want to, it kind of ruins the experience. And it might not seem like a big deal to a parent, but to a kid, it does make a big deal. And you're just kind of dreading that interaction, you're dreading that meal, and it kind of maybe makes food not the best thing in the world for you.
Yeah, I think if you want your kid to try things like that, it's fine if you offer it, but just try not to be too pushy. Just give them their space. You ask one time, do you want to try these Brussels sprouts? They're good. If they say no, then just leave it at that. And you say, okay, well, they're here if you want to try them. And you don't have to talk about it anymore, and it's over.
And yeah, I think all that makes sense. And also, I think you should have faith that as your kid gets older, they'll definitely be more open to trying new things, and kind of with time it'll happen naturally.
So if a kid doesn't like something at 6, it doesn't mean they're not going to like something when they're 16 or 26.
That's it, yes.
Has that happened to any of you guys where you didn't like something when you were younger, but you kind of liked it when you were older?
Yeah, because my whole life I grew up in a family that loved seafood, and my grandparents loved seafood, my mom and my brothers loved seafood, and I just never liked it. Originally, my mom really wanted me to like seafood, but over time, she just understood that I was probably not going to try it for a while or not really interested in it. So she would just make me an alternative meal, which I always appreciated that. I never starved for dinner because we were having seafood, which never made me hate seafood. I'm 18 and I just tried shrimp for my first time last week, and I actually really liked it.
One time I was at this family event, and there was this dessert, and it kind of looked like it was pink, and it looked like kind of like slush, basically. It was like pink slush. And I was probably about 10 or 12 years old, And my parents were like, here, you should try this. It's really good. And I was like, that looks awful. I do not want to try that. Oh, that looks terrible. And they're like, okay. And they gave it to my brother, and he tried it, and he was like, wow, this is really good. And I was like, okay, I want to try it. And they're like, no. They're like, you already said no. You can't try it now.
They didn't let you do it?
They didn't let me eat it. And I still remember that. And that kind of, believe it or not, it made me like more want to try new things. I kind of learned my lesson, I guess. Yeah. It was pretty cool. Look, I mean, I was mad. I was very mad at the time. But looking back, pretty good move by my parents, I must say.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like great advice. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I'm sure it's going to do a lot of parents a lot of good, so thank you so much.
Thank you,
No
Gary.
problem.
Good luck.
And now it's time for our Taking One for the Team segment. I kind of think of parenting as a team sport. Well, this is when one generous parent takes one for the team by sharing a personal story that might not paint their kid or their parenting in the best light, but it hopefully helps the rest of us realize that there are no perfect kids, there are no perfect parents, and that we're all doing our best. This week's story comes from Susan.
Hi, my name is Susan, and I have a story about my daughter and her early issues with food. And so she's now 17 years old, but when she was a toddler and just starting solid foods, she had just an extreme reaction to the look and feel of certain food. She would often just, if she touched something that was seemed a little bit slimy, I mean, she would just do a full-on body shiver and just refused to eat. And as a new mom, this is my first child, and I was at my wit's end. I was frustrated, I was worried, and I was in a play group with some people whose kids, I mean, they were eating everything. They were eating sushi and everything, and I literally could not get my daughter to put anything in her mouth. And I remember a couple of evenings where I was just in tears thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be sending my 1.5-year-old to bed with absolutely no dinner, and this doesn't feel right. And it just kind of went against my better instincts. We have a joke in my family that she, I remember one evening, even when she was, just a little bit older and talking, and maybe 2.5, and she said, Mommy, I just want a water dinner tonight. That's all I want is water.
So how does she eat now? How is she?
Now she'll literally eat anything. She will, from kale to chickpeas to, she's a vegetarian, and eats really, almost any vegetable, almost any spice, and loves all different kinds of ethnic foods, and is just a completely different teenager than she was toddler.
And if you was there any way you would have expected when you were at the worst
Absolutely
and you couldn't
not.
get her to eat anything?
Absolutely not.
You would have never predicted that she would be eating like this now.
No. My father's a physician, and kept telling me, you know what, we are not built to just let ourselves starve. And if you put the food in front of her, if she's hungry, she will eat. And so I just sort of let that be my guide for a while. And as long as she was happy and energetic, that she was getting what she needed. And then beyond that, I just decided that I would make dinner time create an opportunity for the kids to see how I ate, and that I would be a model for them in their eating. And that really was the best way to try to help teach self-regulation and moderation in eating. And I, am a big believer that kids observe how you eat and what you eat and your relationship with food, and take all those cues from you. And I try to make mealtime now about the conversation and what's happening during the day and people's issues, and not about, I do not make our dinner conversation about whether or not somebody's eating all their green beans or
Right.
salad. I would just say, that you need a healthy variety on your plate. And I think that that's contributed to what are hopefully good relationships with food.
Well, thank you so much, Susan, for taking one for the team. We really appreciate it, and I know you're going to help a lot of parents, so thanks.
Thanks so much. Happy to help.
And now here's a short preview from our episode on well-being and a few tips on how to raise happy kids.
We all, as parents, want our kids to have good well-being, to be resilient, to be happy, to enjoy their lives. And you're saying this is something parents can control.
Yes. The things that contribute to happiness are very easy things that we can learn to do more of. And what's great about it is that parents are going to be better parents if they take care of their own well-being. It's like putting your oxygen mask on first.
Right.
Taking care of yourself is going to make you a better parent, because then you'll be able to give more to your children.
And that's the end of our show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Parent Pep Talk. If you liked our podcast, please subscribe for free on iTunes or the podcast app, and also leave us a rating. If you didn't like it, I promise I'll try to do better the next time. I'd also love to hear from you. If you have any comments or questions for me or our team panel, or stories you'd like to share that would make other parents feel better, or ideas for episodes, please don't hesitate to email me at parentpeptalk@safekids.org or contact me on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Gary Carton. Have a great week, everyone. Remember, you're doing great, even if it doesn't always feel like it, and we'll see you next time on the Parent Pep Talk.